To our regularly scheduled Tuesday City Commission meeting. Our first order of business, let's all stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first order of business is the consent agenda. Now, I think we have some folks here who would like to say a couple of words about item number 2.
Good evening. My name is Maggie Smet, and this is my husband, Craig Smet. We are local residents here in Newton, Kansas, and we are requesting and making a petition to de-annex a portion of our property into the county. So Craig is going to hand out some information to the council, and I'm going to give you just a little brief history. Let me check the time. Very brief history about how we got to this point in time. It all started with dear daughter Katie and how she enjoyed making friends with a young lady who was in 4-H and FFA, lifelong. And she comes home one day and asks her dad, "Dad, will you please buy me a cow? I want to show it during the fair." So, and Katie has not ever been the best of students, and when she found the one thing that piqued her interest in school, she started studying better. She started working toward better grades. She started studying different opportunities that she could make into a career. And she ended up, well, Dad did buy her a cow, and she did start showing that cow at the fair, and it turned into a wonderful opportunity. And I have to give a little credit to the teaching staff at Newton High School and the principal at the time that allowed for farm animals to come to the facility where the kids could work hands-on with those. So that's really what got her started in her current career. She went on to study at Butler County Community College and got farm and ranch management degree, as well as she's studying beef production. So while she was working during high school, she kept her cows at her employer's home, which is Larry and Margaret Gehring. So, and then she's talking Dad into, well, how about if we look for a place of our own so that we can have our own head of cattle, so that we can raise some beef and then sell it to our friends and family. So Dad and Katie thought that was a very good idea. So we started looking for property. And as you might know, I'm sure you've had people that you've talked to, friends and family, that finding just the right place is a challenge. So I am a lifelong Harvey County resident. My family came to Harvey County in 1871. So I was particularly fond of trying to find some land in the western part of the county where the Proudies originated. So after about 1.5 to 2 years of looking all over and actually widening our stance to not to maybe include more than Harvey County, we came across a piece of property that we found a section of the land was in the county. And so, of course, Katie suggested, well, Mom, you know you might need some goats because goats are entertaining. When our friends found out we were going to get some country property, they said, you have to get fainting goats. So we did. And then it kind of mushroomed into chickens and ducks and geese and an alpaca, because our little farmer educator said, if you have goats, Mom, you need a herd guardian. And so that's where we got the alpaca. So we have enjoyed our little piece of property that we purchased in 2019. We bought our property from Brett and Michelle Roofs, and they told us that it was 3 parcels of land. And if, as you address your packet, I'm going to let Craig address the information in your packet. But we bought this section of land with the understanding that of the 3 parcels, 1 parcel is in town, the center parcel is in the county, the south section of our 5.5, almost 6 acres is in city limits. So since then, we have accumulated a little menagerie of animals that we have had a lot of positive comments. We have a lot of people that drive by our property and they tell us how much they enjoy seeing the animals. We have a couple social media accounts for our farm animals. And we even have one TikTok that's had over 60,000 views. And these are just farm animals. So I work in a dental office here in town, and sometimes when I get a very scared child, I'll pull out my phone and I'll have them watch a couple videos of our goats and show them the trampoline that they jump on and some of the things that Craig has made for our goats for entertainment. And that usually always calms them down so that we can get their dental procedures done. So we really enjoy our little piece of heaven. We call it Happy Acres. We've enjoyed giving and donating eggs to Northridge Elementary School, where the science teacher has taken the eggs and incubated them and used them for school projects. So she lets the children measure the eggs, weigh the eggs, do observation with the eggs, and it's something that we would enjoy continuing. And hopefully in the future, there's opportunity where we can have more animals that are not invasive or that are not too smelly. We don't want to go too crazy, but we just want to keep up a community area where a lot of people that stop by sometimes with no notice, and sometimes we don't know these folks, but they have questions about alpacas. Can I pet your alpaca? Sure, come over, pet our alpaca. So we have opportunity to educate the community, and hopefully we'll have opportunity to work with the community in the future. And now I'm going to let Craig discuss a couple of items in the packet. Thank you for allowing us to address you this evening.
So what you have is just a brief summary of what the history of that piece of property looks like, and that we understand that there was an actual grant of an annexation back in 2017, and it was unknown to us because when we purchased in 2019, any research we did on the property showed that it was still in the county. The reason for that is because it didn't actually make it to the Register of Deeds office until 2021, and so it was never recorded as such. And since Kansas is a first-to-file state, you know, there's no precedence that it's going to be anything but whatever the previous filing was until a new filing comes. And so that's why our 3 acres of land in the middle was listed in the county. And from what our understanding was, and we've talked to some law enforcement and everything, and they've always said, we thought you were in the county as well. So, and because of all of that, we felt we were allowed to keep animals on the property, and we've kept them inside of that 3 acres of land, and we were aware. And so that's where we lie right now. So as of, I think about May of this year, we learned that we were actually in the city limits, and because of that, we got a citation asking to remove our animals from the property, and so that's why we're here today. Is there any questions anyone would have?
I guess I'm just wondering, so there's a piece north, and then there's the middle piece. So I guess maybe the question posed would be, what happens with all the water, sewer? How does that play into that?
Commissioner Valentine, if I may.
Okay.
So the action item before you tonight is to just receive
Okay.
the petition and set
Okay.
a public hearing, and all those facts we can go over.
Okay.
Once the public hearing's set, there is a statutory notice requirement, so we'll have to publish and
Okay.
be sure to provide a full background in addition to the information that the Smets provide. I think they wanted to give you a preview of the issue, but we'll be sure to
Okay.
give you all those facts.
We'll
Yes.
look at those
So we-
questions then.
So the land, other than some farm fence, the land is precisely the same as when we purchased it. And so there really has been no changes or improvements on the property since the time that we purchased it,
Thank you.
or actually from 2017 when I guess the original annexation was made.
Thank you.
Appreciate the background and the story, if you will. We all have a story, right? So,
She's a lot more interesting than you are.
yeah, just keep that in mind next time you do it. So,
I knew that in the beginning.
Thank you.
well, thank you, and no doubt this will go through the process, and
Okay.
appreciate it.
Yes.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we will move on now to the regular agenda, item number 4. We're going to receive the financial report through May 31, 2023 from Donna.
Yes, this is kind of an odd time to give you this report. It's not a quarter end or anything like that, but we are having our budget workshop this week, and I wanted to get you up to date on what the revenue looks like as of May 31st of this year. Our property tax is coming in consistently as it usually does. We're at 60% of budget. We have increased our valuation each year. Last year, we increased 6.6%, and this year we've found out our valuation is going to be a 10.01% increase. We've received 2 of our disbursements, and we'll get another one in June, another in September. We're running about, we always run about 3% delinquency rate, so have a very good collection rate. The expenditures today, this year, this is overall, the whole city, we're at 34%, and this is almost exactly the same as it was this time last year. We're very consistent. Now, I'm going to go through these just pretty fast. They're your usual reports. If you have any questions, please stop me. Sales tax this year, we're coming in at $137,893 over 2022 and $217,523 over 21. That is for the original 1% sales tax. Additional 1% sales tax, we're coming in at $120,149 over 22 and $246,206 over 21. These consistently continue to go up, and this is what's kind of saving our bacon, so to speak, right now. So we're excited about that. The franchise taxes, we've always budgeted about $1.6 million for this. During the COVID time, it did go down to about $1.3 million, but they are continuing to go up. And last year, we received $1.7 million. So we hope to go over budget this time again. We've received about 52% of our budget so far this year. Interest on idle funds, this is the one that is really helping us. If you remember back in 21, we had $2,000 in interest at this time, and then we ended up with $4,000. So this was, and last year, we had 15,000 and ended up year-end at 401,000 for 2022. So we had budgeted just like $10,000 because it was so bad when we were doing the 23 budget. But we've already received $448,000. So this is, right now, is what's saving our general fund. Our expenditures are right where they usually are at 38% of our budget. If you look at the next sheet, this is our summary by department, and you can see right now our revenues are coming in at about 52% of budget, and like I said, we're spending 38% on expenditures. If you look at the column of 2022 actual, we ended the year at 17%. Our budget, we had we're thinking we were going to be down at 11%. So things came in a lot better at year-end with our sales tax and our interest and helped us push that up. So we were well over our policy limit. Next is airport. And the fuel sales are down a little bit from 22, about $31,000. The leases are down about $14,000. But they're pretty well in the realm of what we've seen in the past. So we just continue on with those. The expenditures are lower than usual. They're about 35% right now. And this is, a lot of this from last year is because of fuel. The cost just went down. For our commodities aren't quite as expensive. And you'll see the airport fund, we're at about 35% of our revenue right now. Last year in 2022, we had budgeted a 4% ending, and we ended at 8% because of the fuel sales that we had. So that was a good thing. If we go on to the wastewater, the revenue, we're about 40% of budget right now. We're at 14,000 down from last year and 64,000 down from 21. The wastewater revenue, half of it, or I would say a lot of it, is the residential, which is set at an average rate. For 3 months out of the winter, we average that for them, so then they pay that all year long. So this is kind of, once it gets set, it's kind of stays the same, except for our commercial. The plan upgrade fee, this year it's up about $21,900, and it's up $800 from 21. So we're right where we're supposed to be there. Our wastewater expenditures are 43% right now. They're staying right at consistent where we usually are. The summary, and you can see we've got about 40% of our revenue in. Last year,
2022, we ended with 11% of our, for our balance of expenditures, and we showed in the budget of 5%. So we didn't lose as much money as we thought we were going to, so this is good news. We lost 1.1 million instead of the 1.5 million. Water revenue is at 42% of budget. Right now, we're at 358,000 over 2022 and 340,000 over 2021. And this one just kind of depends on the weather and what's happening. So I'm glad to see that it's up. We have had some rain, but not as much as usual. Expenses are right where they're supposed to be. They're at 37% of budget. And you can see we ended last year a little better than we thought we would. We're at, instead of the 1.2 loss that we thought we were going to have, 1.2 million, we only lost about $500,000. It's still going down, but we kind of was able to slow the progression. Sanitation. Like I said, this is always my favorite fund. It seems to do the best. Our revenue is at 42%, and we are 20,000 over 22 and about the same over 21. We're right at this, consistent with our expenditures at 36%. And if you look at the summary, we are doing very good. We lost $43,000, and we had budgeted maybe $180,000 loss. So they weren't immune from the expenditures of last year. And then I included an investment report. You had kind of asked what my investments were like. So I included that for your information. Do you have any questions for me?
Well, thank you. Sales tax and interest, right?
Yes, yes.
It might be worth a mention, Ms. Donna, if I may, on this last report here. Remember that these are investments that are dedicated to certain funds and certain, like we can't just pull them out and sweep them into the general fund to help kind of balance the budget. These are very dedicated funds, and they have to be held in a certain amount of time in a certain account, those kinds of things. Is that correct?
That's correct. Mm-hmm.
So while we're pleased that we have money in the bank, we actually can't touch it right now. So, but that's a good thing in a way. It's saving it for another day.
And I would tell you that we had some good news this last week. You know, we usually get an EMC rebate check, a dividend check. And this year, they've given their largest refund ever. It was a total company-wide of $4 million. And they took that and looked at everybody, all the entities' loss ratio, and we received $70,900. And it's usually just been about 50. So this goes back against our insurance expense, which was higher than usual this year. So this will help out a lot.
Which helps the general fund. Every little bit helps.
That's right.
Thank you very much. Good work.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to,
Do we need a motion?
Motion to formally receive, you sure can.
If you wouldn't mind, I think the auditors would appreciate that. Some of the feedback we got in our last audit interview was they wanted to make sure that the commission was not just hearing the financials, but understanding them and accepting them. So.
Okay, I move that we receive that report.
I'll second.
okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're going to consider a request to close West First Street from Beverly to Grandview through Athletic Park Circle on August the 4th from 6:30 to 7:45 for the Harvey County Parade and for city assistance with the fair. Suzanne?
Yes, Commissioners, staff met with the Harvey County Fair Board on May 30th, and we went over multiple details, including the parade route. And the timing on here, I think we just had a slip up. It should be 6:30 through 7:15. I believe, for the parade. They don't expect it to last longer than 45 minutes. Okay. There'll be some lining up prior to 6:30, but the road should still be open. And then, of course, you have the request for all of the different city services that we provide for the fair. You know, the snow fence that goes along First Street. We've got some of the reserve time that often comes in and helps, and fire on standby and different things like that. and we move picnic tables and all kinds of stuff. Probably the big news that we learned, it's all pretty typical stuff with the Fair Board that we learned this year, is they're having an axe throwing trailer, so, ooh.
The trailer throws axes?
Yeah, but we would recommend that you go ahead and approve this request for city services and the parade route.
I move for approval of their request.
I second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that passes. And item number 6, we're going to consider an ordinance amending the commercial sanitation services. And Suzanne, again?
Yes, Commissioners, the type 2 trash service that we're talking about this evening, this is basically a market adjustment for this service. This is those that have dumpsters, the big, like a metal steel dumpster that we provide service to. It's non-residential customers and then some multifamily accounts. There's only 49 of these accounts, but we have reviewed our fees, reviewed those that provide the same service in the private sector, and we're just trying to get us a little bit closer to where we need to be. And so this rate increase that is included in the ordinance, remember this is all done via ordinance, is approximately a 20% increase, not exactly, and not on every one. We're just trying to get each of those different types of dumpsters a little bit closer. And we've added in the 8-yard cubic dumpster. We needed to add that. One of our customers requested that. So we're asking for you to approve the ordinance that is amending those rates.
Can you clarify, when I was reading through this, with all the different headings and then subheadings, there are a couple of places where there are rates. So, let's see, what would be page 10, or it's 9, I guess, in here. It's under type 2 fees, B, type 2 service, number 2. And then you go on down, and there is another one. There's the number of collections per week cost, and then there's the refuse container rental rate.
Right. Some of these are for the collection. The other is for the dumpsters. We have a few customers that still have their own dumpsters, some that actually rent the dumpster. And one of the cost increases has to do with the steel that are used to make the dumpsters, and some of those costs have went up.
Okay, all right. Rented, okay.
And so you're saying that the rates on the rental as well as the rates on the pickups and all of that went 20% across the board, or?
Not exactly 20, but close in the neighborhood. Yes, our maintenance staff that deals with these customers directly have adjusted all of these.
I would make a motion to approve it, but for the sake of those listening, this affects just commercial and not residential.
Right.
So
That's right.
I would say
I can only imagine.
Well, one clarification. Those that have a multifamily account, say a multifamily property where an apartment building that would have big dumpsters, this is those accounts as well.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
But for the single residential, one or
Right.
twos doesn't affect them.
No
Okay.
change.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
We might just state the ordinance number for the record.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Wasn't on
yeah,
there.
ordinance number.
5123-23.
Okay, 5123-23.
Ditto.
Okay, item number 7, we're going to consider a resolution for the Central Kansas Community Foundation Slate Creek Elementary Accessibility Fund to serve complimentary alcoholic beverages or cereal malt beverages at Art Together Now event on July 29, 2023. Chris?
Sure, and you've taken this action for similar events before. Simply put, if a nonprofit organization wants to serve complimentary drinks for an event that promotes the arts, there's a mechanism through state statute where if the city approves it and notice is given to the state, they can do just that. So there is an application in the file. You saw this, I think, just a few weeks ago for similar events at Carriage Factory. this one was not included in that grouping. If you're agreeable to it, it would be a motion to approve the resolution that's in the file.
I would move that we approve Resolution G1313.
I'll second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that
And
passes.
I need to abstain. I'm the treasurer of
Got it.
CKCO.
Okay, item number 8, we're going to consider a memorandum of agreement with Habitat for Humanity. Rebecca?
Yes, thank you all. As you may remember, in January of this year, Habitat came to us with this house on Columbus asking for a fee waiver, and it has been your custom, you granted that. They broke ground in late spring, and one of the options that we have set aside is a revolving loan fund of CDBG funding that the new owner will be able to access to help offset their mortgage costs. What you have before you tonight is an updated memorandum of agreement. The last one that they've been utilizing doesn't work in today's financial situation, with the loan terms being a little too narrow to make it as affordable as they want it. So this one lengthens that length of loan time to continue to make it an affordable option for our families. We brought it to you to approve that so that we can continue on the process of dispersing that revolving loan.
I would move we approve the memorandum of agreement with Habitat for Humanity.
I
as
second.
presented.
There is a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that passes. Item number 9, we're going to receive plans and specifications for water and sewer to serve Fox Ridge Addition and set the date and time to receive the bids. Suzanne?
Yes, Commissioners. Fox Ridge Edition, that is located between Kansas Avenue and South 14th Street Connector and I-135, and then south of Country Club Drive. This is the new addition that you approved a plat for back in January of '23. They are ready to move forward with phase 1 of their construction, which is basically the east half of the property. We have sewer plans that are now complete, and they have been approved by the state. The water plans are complete, but they are at the state waiting for approval. We'd like to go ahead and put the sewer project out for competitive bidding, and we would bid the project on July 11th. And then I would like for you to just give me the approval to move forward with the bidding on the water as soon as we receive the state approval, so we don't have to wait, a week or two to have a commission meeting. And so we would ask you this evening to, and remember, all of these projects, this is paid 100% by the benefit district, which are those properties that would fall within that phase of the construction. So we would ask that you would approve the water and sewer plans and set the bid dates as I just suggested, July 11th, and then whenever we can move it forward after approval of the water plans.
Well, I would go ahead and move that we accept that bid date of July the 11th. Move forward not only with the sewer, but the water when you get that back.
I'll second.
Do we need 2 separate motions here or just one for both?
I think this will suffice.
Okay. Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that passes.
Thank you.
Item number 10, we're going to discuss banning tobacco in the city park. Chris?
And I can just tee this up. This is not an action item, but rather a discussion item. As you recall, on April 25th, the City Commission received a presentation which concluded with a request to consider a ban of tobacco products smoking at city parks. City Commission instructed city staff to explore the issues. We have done that and report back with the outline that I've included in the agenda packet. In terms of working with law enforcement and the interested parties, we've outlined at least a concept, which would be a resolution which would include a policy statement against the use of tobacco products in city parks. That would include smoking, vaping, chew, anything, not just combustible tobacco. The ban would be applicable to all city parks within the city. To effectuate that policy contained in the resolution, city staff would install signage which would be provided by a third party at no cost to the city. It would not be necessarily, a violation wouldn't be criminal in nature. It wouldn't be adding a provision in the city code whereby it would be illegal to use tobacco, but it would be essentially an administrative rule of the park. And if someone were to violate that rule, they could be asked to leave the park and subject to future action from there. So I wanted to tee it up. I think there may be some speakers that want to address it. I don't know if you have any comments, questions. Obviously, this can go in a number of ways. You can provide direction for additional research, set a work session, have us bring back a resolution or explore specific issues, but that's our initial report back to you.
Is there anybody in the audience? Stand up, state your name and your address, please.
Yes. My name is Willa Pierce, and I live at 1523 Westboro. And I was a smoker. I'm spending over $35 a week or 2 weeks to try and use a lozenge instead. But I frequent the parks a lot. I have never noticed anyone deliberately getting in anybody's face with a cigarette or anything. Usually they go off to the side somewhere else to smoke, and they're not hurting anyone. Smokers pay a great deal in taxes and money, just like everybody else. And if they're getting out and getting some fresh air, then that's good. You know, they're not getting in anybody's face. And I realize there's a lot of nitpickers who will complain about everything. But I just figure if it's a city park and we all pay our taxes and stuff, as long as they're not deliberately going into amidst the people and blowing it in their face and stuff. I've known a lot of smokers. They usually go off over to the side somewhere, get the nicotine they need, and then they'll go back to the games or whatever. But I just think it's an unnecessary waste of time and taxpayers. If people don't like somebody smoking around, they can always walk away. They have that freedom. And for health reasons, there's a lot worse health things in this city that it has not addressed than to worry about whether smoking in open air can hurt somebody, including slum landlords, the houses. There's just a whole lot of stuff that they can't claim that smoking outside over in the air is going to do any more health damage than, well, we've got rid of half the toys in the park because they weren't safe. We don't have that many parks left. Most of them are sports complex things rather than actual parks. So in my opinion, it's a waste of time, and people are going to break the rule anyway, regardless of the signs you put up. You know, we don't smoke in buildings, we don't get to smoke at our houses, we don't get, you know. So it's just non-essential, I guess. It's just something to nitpick about.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
And I agree that, you know, people can move away from it. But what impressed me with the kids that brought, they went out there and picked up cigarette butts. Not just a dozen. I mean, like thousands. How do we get smokers to
Get people
put their
to not
butts?
litter. Well,
Yeah, they seem to think that a cigarette butt isn't litter.
well, there's no place to put it, but
Yeah.
even at that is a problem because at work, in our smoking area, with ashtrays around, I did a lot of sweeping and cleaning up after
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
So, but eventually I would just make sure you don't let your kids pick up stuff and put them in their mouths.
Yeah.
You know, eventually it will biodegrade.
Yeah.
But, you know, as far as littering, any more than throwing their water bottles or the pop cans or stuff, because I was
Yeah.
at a park last night and there was water bottle thrown down.
My personal pet peeve is straw wrappers.
Well, yeah, you know, I mean, I don't know what to do about people.
Yeah.
OCD people like me, we do it out of courtesy, but there are people who won't, or
Yeah.
they don't have a place, or they
It's
just.
automatic a lot of times.
Automatic.
It's just, yeah.
Yeah, so the trash thing, I don't know about other than mowing them up or
Yeah.
plowing them under or something, you know. like I say, even at work, I had not found a solution other than I clean up after them.
Yeah.
You know, which I can do and sometimes, but,
Sure.
you know, depending on how much.
Yeah.
So that question about the litter, I don't know about.
Yeah.
But, you know, you could request, or you could have receptacles available.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm a struggle with, you know, they're making me quit, but I'm 70 years old.
Yeah.
And I've been smoking since I was 14, and I'm in pretty good health, you know?
Yeah.
But that's, you know, could be genetics or blessings of God, I don't know.
Yeah.
But
I appreciate your comment.
it's, you know, it's just that people get irritated. I mean, every time they do anything, and there is, what do you call it, obsessive, or there's some mental thing where they just don't like to follow rules.
Yeah.
You know, and the more rules you pile on them, the more determined they are that they're going to get nasty about it. You know, and that's, I guess, human nature. You know, so I don't know about the trash thing. I'll have to think on that because I have.
If you have a
I do that at my
we're sure
yard when
willing to
people
listen.
come by. I go through and pick up everything. But, you know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Lori Kessler, 1117 Allison, but I'm here actually as a health department employee and the coordinator of the Healthy Harvey Coalition. Just a small reminder in that 50% of the litter that we have in the US, not just here, is cigarette butts. So that is one of the biggest concerns. I will also remind you that in spite of everything, tobacco use is still the #1 killer in the US. And it is still affecting people who are exposed to secondary and tertiary smoke. So health concerns, it is still one of our #1 disease causers in the US. And just wanted to bring those up. Also, again, one of the things that Chris mentioned is that this is not a request for people to be punished for smoking. It is an encouragement, a reminder, if you will, to not smoke around others and to not litter. Even though it would be a policy against having it in the park, we don't want people to be punished because they have a medical condition. We want them to be courteous and as a reminder to not do it in the park around, especially our little kids or around the people that are in the stadiums for events. I mean, we've got our lovely baseball stadiums that everyone are visiting right now, and we don't want people being exposed to the smoke. And that is a common comment that we get is, I'm tired of people blowing vape and cigarette smoke into me in the stadiums. So just say that part. And then there are a few other things on the notes, our notes that we have here. One is I was actually wanting a clarification because there are a list of parks on here, but is the Sand Creek Trail is a linear park, correct? So it's not actually listed on here. Oh, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Never mind. Sand Creek Bike Path. We missed
No.
it when we were reading through it.
The-
And the dog park. Yay.
The Sand Creek Bike Path is considered along Sand Creek, and then there's the railroad park
Yeah.
that's along BNSF.
Yeah, yeah. So those were just a clarification I had on things. I want to talk about KDHEs.
Yes, okay. My name is Alini. I'm with the health department as well, chronic disease department. And first of all, I want to thank you, one, for quitting, and two, for speaking up. I totally understand your point, and yes, there will be naysayers everywhere. The part of the non-issue, I will say two things. One is, yes, the litter is humongous, and the Honor Society group at the high school was the one that picked up all the litter, and that project happened in Heston, and the Parks Department approached us and said, can you do something similar to what happened in Heston, because we do have to clean up a lot of the tobacco litter, and that is a cost to the city, and frankly, a waste. We know that it will not be completely eliminated, but it is a push. It is a step towards culture change. And that is what we're asking. We know that kids are at these parks and we watch them smoke and they watch them smoke and they think it's acceptable. We don't accept drinking in parks. Why would we accept smoking in parks? And it is like Lori said, it is a secondhand smoke problem, and it may not be a problem to most kids, but secondhand smoke affects the health of our children. Mine, for example, has asthma problems, and once he has asthma attacks, I have to take time off work because he needs to be on a nebulizer every 2 hours, and I can't ask. I have sent him to school, and I ended up just having to give him steroids. In 1 year, the recommended amount is 1 maximum. He's had in 1 year 3 doses of steroids. So I'm very privileged to work somewhere that gives me time off for school, for sickness. We know that it's not the case for everyone, for every mother, for every father that is here in Newton. And secondhand smoke affects that, and we want that culture change. So we are asking your support to give signs where kids are, to just say, no, smoking is not okay. It's not acceptable. It's not something you should be doing near your friends, near your family, near kids. And it will not be okay to do where the kids are, which are parks. So, thank you. Thank you. I did not, but he has asthma. Smoking actually causes asthma and causes also infant mortality, which is something that we are trying to work with in our county, and we are trying to make this visible so that parents are not smoking, because it not only causes asthma, but also ear infections and, yes, infant mortality. So, yes. Please help us help our children. Thank you.
Who can speak to the program that's funding the signs?
I can, maybe. I will say, thank you for reminding me of that. The only thing is that they won't consider a resolution. It has to be either a parks policy or an ordinance.
I would say that there is confusion on the wording, because when KDHE, who is the organization that runs the signage, read through the notes, they said, this sounds like a policy, but it's labeled a resolution, and we have a problem with that. It's a semantics issue. It really is wording that KDHE is concerned that it's labeled a resolution, in spite of the fact that it's a resolution to enact an administrative policy to ban smoking in the parks. So that is something that would have to work on wording, just to make them happy to provide all of the free signage.
And who controls the signage, verbiage, and all of that?
We pick what we want.
So, I mean, I'm a 15-year former smoker, so I'm probably, former smokers are probably the worst, and we're probably the worst to admit it as well. I would love, do those signs have a capability to have cessation or information on them as well?
And they're also the ones that we've been looking at, that we discussed with Chief and with Assistant Chief and Chris and everyone, actually just say young lungs at play.
Okay.
And no smoking. And yes, they do have the ability to put the cessation, quit line, contact information on those.
So I kind of, does this have to be, is there a mechanism that we could carve out the youth playground areas where the equipment is and not the entirety of the park,
Theoretically, yes, theoretically.
and still qualify for the grant or the program or whatever?
We would have to talk with KDHE and see where their current stance is.
I mean, because I could definitely get behind, bleachers, dugouts, where the play areas for the equipment, and I can definitely get behind that and everything. I'm concerned about, neighbors tattling on neighbors and clogging up the phone lines with that.
Which is why we did not recommend it being a ordinance that had a criminal punishment to it.
Right, so.
And our plan is to work with the police so that if we do pass this, that we're not asking for people to tattle on each other. We're asking just for the culture change. We just don't want this here. But yes, there are other priorities, and the police should not be called for that.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, the streets would still stay public property. You could still smoke in the streets, right? I think about a lot of places that have no smoking on campus, so people just leave the property to go smoke. So,
Housing.
yeah, so.
So if you went and smoked in your car, I'm kind of wondering because you okayed a alcohol thing on a school thing for art, and then they'll get in their car and drive away after they.
Well, we don't want them to drive away. That's against the law. I mean, so.
And
Yeah.
that has tooth behind that law.
Yeah.
So.
And if I could just say one more thing about vaping, we also don't know what they are vaping, and we don't want that exposure to the kids.
All right, well, thank you all very much, and we appreciate your comments and feedback. And again, as Chris, when he teed this conversation up, it's just information only this evening, and just something for you to consider as we move forward. And we'll bring it back to you to future meeting date.
Meanwhile, we'll go away and ponder and ask other citizens what they think.
We will, I'm sure, hear feedback.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 11, budget information. This is from Donna.
Yes, this is just the last of our budget packets that we hand out to you, so you can have all the information you need before we come together at our budget workshop. And this was on the bond and interest, and also had a listing of all the CIP projects, which we hope and think we can get to in our time throughout the years. Suzanne puts that together and puts things on there as time allows. She doesn't poke everything in there because there won't be time to get it all done in a year. So she's very thoughtful about how she puts that in there and what's coming down the pike. So that's for your information.
And there'll be things that will pop up that aren't on there that will end up getting done. And just, as you know, development pops up and projects pop up. But this is our best educated guess at this point.
And that capital improvement plan, to Suzanne's point, is a living document. It will be amended multiple times even throughout a year, but we just like to bring it to you, and it's usually 5 to 10 years out. And we're just trying to look at bigger projects that we know we either need to save for or know we need to be able to bond through the bond and interest fund in the future.
And you'll see some of those there's a few on there that don't have a bond payment corresponding across. That's a loan, a water or a sewer loan, so that will not have any bonding ramifications, but it needed to be on the CIP list. And I did give you 2 copies of the bond and interest fund, one that shows staying consistent with our mill levy that we have in there, and then or moving 3 mills to the general fund, and we can discuss that on Thursday. But I did update these forms so they do show the new valuation we received.
That was also a nice little treat, wasn't it?
It was.
In some ways.
And no action necessary on that, Mayor. It was just for information only. So.
Okay. Any other thoughts or questions from the bench? Well, then let's move on to Citizens Forum. We have our first participant is Rich Herbal.
I was concerned about, like, the shipping containers, why can't we have them for our storage at home? Because, if you go rent a storage thing unit, you're not guaranteed your stuff will be wet or damaged, but the shipping containers are sealed completely tight. And then if you want to move, you can move with stuff with it even too. But people say they might be concerned about stuff, I can't call it that. Like an eyesore, but you see people with campers, boats and all stuff in the yard too. I don't see why we can't like have some, your own storage unit at the house, we can use it for stuff like that. And I noticed they said they're not supposed to have them. I noticed 2 locations in Newton has those pods in their yards. And I talked to them before the meeting, that they're not allowed even those even before. I was wondering why they can have them, why can't people can have their own storage unit at home? Because all I want is just a 20-foot storage unit for the house. Put stuff in, I did my own remodeling in my house and my garage.
So just so I understand, are you asking why
we can't have a
why
storage
you
unit?
can't have a 20-foot shipping container as
Right.
opposed to a pod or a storage unit?
Yep.
Okay. Well, we will take that under advisement, and Chris, can you do some research on that and bring it back to us?
Yeah,
and-
no
and
problem.
we'll have further discussion
Because
about
there's
that.
something about that, I talked to one of the guys like last week, is that according to the ordinance is not been passed in 1979, I think it was, when it put it in effect.
Okay.
But I figure people can have those at their house, if they rent their own, you can buy them, you can keep them, you can move them, you want to move them somewhere else.
Did you try to get a permit for one, or what prompted this?
Well, since my dad passed away, I talking a long time ago with my uncles, because they are out of the country. It says it's a good thing to have. It'll keep, or rodents and all stuff out of your stuff. It's all sealed tight.
But how did you find out that you're not allowed to have one? That's what
I talked to one of the ladies up here
Okay,
last
okay.
week.
Yeah, that helps.
It could you get some sort of a permit to have one for a period of time, like a roll-off dumpster or something like that?
Well, a roll-off dumpster, yes, you could get, but for a shipping container, I don't believe that it's allowed according to code.
Right.
Oftentimes, one of the reasons that it's not allowed is because the size of them, and you have to have setbacks and those kind of things, where the pod stuff is a lot smaller, very temporary. And I believe that you're asking about a shipping container that would be there permanently, kind of in place of a storage shed. And oftentimes, you can't fit those in. This specific case, I don't know about off the top of my head, but we can certainly talk.
Because I was mainly going to keep them like in my driveway, so I'm going to leave it on. I'm not, or I can leave them in my backyard, no one can see it even too.
Right, so I think we've got some homework to do to see what the options are, and Chris will probably want to get his information.
But one thing too, if you can, it's more like a money saver too. If you said pay so much, it's your own. If you keep on spending money out for your storage unit, it's going to keep adding on and on. Since you buy a unit for like $3,000, that's yours. Not about keeping money into like a storage unit. And it's more sealed instead of, you don't know about getting bugs or water and damage on your stuff.
Right.
Than regular storage unit.
Mr. Herbal, maybe I could get your phone number and your address here. We could step away from the microphone, and you could give me that information, and we'll get back to you, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next individual is Philip Glass. Wants to talk about the flag at the cemetery.
Yes, sir. Thank you, commissioners and fellow citizens. I was so surprised at this Memorial Weekend. Went out to the cemetery, met some people from the city out there, and they walked up to me and said, "We got your flag for you." And I'm so glad, because when I went out there, there was because I've been praying about this, there was a flag on the pole, and there were so many flags and so many flowers out there, it looked like a garden. Beautiful. And you couldn't have been any better than that. And I was just thinking about a couple of years before, because the last time I had a flag out there was 2020. And I went out there 2021 at the cemetery. I met a man out there, and I don't know who he is, but he told me, he said that he didn't like working at Greenwood, at this cemetery out there. And he said that become quite a hassle putting a flag on that. He said they considered taking that flagpole down because they thought all the flags were on the graves should have been enough. And I thought, didn't see one note in 2021, didn't see flag there in 2022. That's one of the reasons I started coming here to make sure they were going to keep a flag on that pole. And these folks I met out there said, yeah, there's going to be a flag on that pole. And I thank them very much for it. And thank you guys very much for it yourselves.
Well, thank you, Philip, for making yourself and your concerns known. And you know
Well,
what?
I think it's,
People do listen.
well, I think as a citizen, I should be able to do this.
Yes.
Yes.
And I thank you folks very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, let's go around the horn. Commissioner Cry.
I don't have anything.
Let's see, just real briefly, the school district hosted at their high school the Bike Across Kansas folk set, and they came today, and as a member of the Kiwanis team, guys, we got to serve them pie and ice cream and watermelon and that, and wow, how interesting it was to hear just some of these folks talk and their stories and the things they eat, the things they do, and we just really appreciated the opportunity. And, I applaud the school district for everything they provided so that these people could have, and they've got their tents out there, and they're going to have, they had a meal tonight, they're going to have breakfast tomorrow, and just the willingness of so many in the community to provide for these riders. So I just wanted to share that I was impressed very much.
I have nothing. Thank you. No, sir.
No, sir.
Just to add to Commissioner Valentine's comments, I spent a lot of the day out there off and on with the BAK participants. As you all may know, our esteemed, wonderful city clerk, Ms. Dirksen, is an active member of the BAK board. And so she's out there this evening, so she's absent. And I got to spend a little bit of time with her and talk to some of the board members this evening as they were coming in and out. They said they had 529 participants pre-register, and then they had, I don't even know how many show up and just register on day of. And so they will be in town this evening and tomorrow morning. Most of them will be out of town by 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, so please make them feel welcome. And just be aware they will be exiting town on First Street. They will leave the high school and go off on First Street to their next location. So please be extra cyclist aware, because you've got 600 plus cyclists out there right now. As Donna also mentioned, just a reminder, on Thursday, we'll be having a budget work session at noon. It'll be specific to the general fund, and you will get more details about the county valuation, the CIP, bond and interest, those kinds of items. So.
All I would have is it's baseball season, as always, and the Newton Sluggin' Rebels are playing a lot, and so go out and support them. That's fun to go out and watch college-age kids that are trying to make it in the baseball world play. I just came from there this evening, and I'm going back. Thankful for technology. I'm able to watch just a little bit of my son's game as he's playing as well right now, but I'll be heading back out there. It's just so fun to see so many people out at the baseball fields and beautiful facilities now.
You and I need to do Bike Across Rhode Island or some small.
How about we start with like Newton?
Yeah,
We could just jump in the line
We need to
tomorrow and act
find
like we're part of
real
the
long
group.
downhill.
Yeah.
Well, I would just like to add to what Commissioner McBroom was saying. So Mayor Ron Braun and myself were invited out Sunday evening to throw out the first pitch for the Newton Sluggin' Rebels. And yeah, they're a fine baseball team, and it was, I hope they have a good season. And we have a fine facility. It's so nice to see those 4 baseball diamonds out there instead of what we used to have.
Long time.
It's great. I hear so many comments about that too. So
Did you stripe it?
did I stripe it? I will not comment on my first pitch. How's that? I got it there, but it wasn't pretty.
How about make it wrong?
I won't say anything about his either, so. All right, we are adjourned.